Music is a world related to entertainment, pleasure, and art, but there are situations in which this musical subjectivity leads us to think beyond what is on the surface. One of the artists that probably leave us a message to decipher is TheFatRat. A clear example is the album Parallax that I already talked about in a previous video. However, all the songs of this producer are connected in a universe with a hidden history. As many have already deduced, all the songs of TheFatRat are interconnected. Even the author himself has stated this. He already made a video dedicated to talking about the girl present in most of his songs. Either way, that will be a theme for a future video, as today's issue is the Mayday song. Attention! This is just a theory, not a video that fully affirms the meaning of this song, so it can be interpreted in various ways. On this occasion we will talk about relatively serious issues, but my intention is not to inform about depression, nor to define how it is, or how a person with this disorder behaves, since not everyone has the same behavior when having it, but it occurs differently in each person with depression, and obviously they do not relate to stereotypes, so it should not be interpreted as such, as this is more directed to the meaning of the song itself. Again, although I mentioned that this theory is justified by people who have also noticed another meaning in this song, no external opinions were taken into account for the elaboration of this video or any other possible theory similar to the topic I will talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new video from my channel, and today I bring a video theory, again. As you know, I'm going to talk about Mayday, in my opinion, one of the best songs of TheFatRat, with an incredible 40 million views published a few years ago on March 23 along with Laura Bram, and this time, what leads us to focus on this song, is not the big hidden story I mentioned in the introduction, otherwise, a theory about meaning beneath the surface of this song, something that transcends beyond the girl lost in space, as the song tells us. To reinforce the justification of this video, we must know what leads us to deduce that Mayday talks about a deeper topic, namely, depression. So first we must review some previous events and data to justify the realization of this video and what I will explain later in this video theory of this song. First, why not talk about the curious title, something that is not decisive, but let's define is the word Mayday. Many already know it and know its meaning from having heard it in a movie or series. In reduced terms, this expression comes from French, was modified and adopted by Americans and other nations years after the First World War, is used in the field of Air Force. This term means help, aid, imminent danger, emergency, etc. And it is used only when it is a high-risk situation, in which the aircraft has a critical failure or in which life is threatened. Second, one of the reasons that justifies this video, are the statements of many users, who say that in addition to the story of an astronaut floating in space in the literal sense of the song, they say that it is about depression, melancholy and close feelings when someone dies. Third, use the method of supposition. First we state that this song, in a hypothetical case, is dedicated to talking about depression and other deep feelings. The purpose now is to give direction to the song in the connotative sense regarding the subject. In other words, we simply assume that the song does talk about depression, and then explain why. First of all, let's separate parts of the lyrics from the song, to work separately, but we will start with a verse that is something interesting. Save me, I'm running out of air. Calling out Mayday. As I said, Mayday is interpreted as help, which in this context tells us that the girl needs help, but what kind of help? Well, using the method of assumption, metaphorically the girl is asking for help to get out of her depression, that which leaves her so much out of breath. Although the phrase "I'm running out of air" may be a reference to her running out of desire to live, she is running out of hope.
Can you hear, can you hear, can you hear my voice?
Can you hear my voice? This is the initial question, the first verse of the song. Clearly a type of question aimed at asking for help. In some cases, people with this type of melancholic feelings tend to ask for help, although it is a small percentage. As I said, this video does not generalize the characteristics of depression. Well, this girl's call for help cannot be heard clearly, since she is immersed in something, in outer space. This can be about her floating through her own thoughts, since it is characteristic that in this disorder, people are oppressed in sad feelings and closely related to anxiety, where, metaphorically, you drown and tire with your thoughts. They revolve around your head again and again, and you are forced to float among them when overthinking things. As I already mentioned, very closely related to depression. Now, let's continue down this path of theory.
I'm lost and I can't find a way. Oh, all the lights going dark and my hopes destroyed.
I'm lost and I can't find a way. Oh, all the lights going dark and my hopes destroyed. Here everything makes much more sense, and now we know one more argument that reinforces this theory. As I already said, the girl is running out of hope, that is, without air, and this part of the song clarifies it even more. It also tells us that she is lost and cannot find a way. This coincides with the acceptance phase in depression, or perhaps, before this phase, since the girl does not find a way to solve her problems and metaphorically she is lost among her thoughts. So as a result of this, the girl will probably seek help. Then what we had predicted happens, the girl asks for help.
Help me, is anybody there?
Help me, is anybody there? Obviously in this context, this refers to some kind of psychological help, looking for someone. Normally in this disorder, the victim may turn to a very close person such as a family member or friend. Omitting some verses, the song says that it is very dark here in space, and of course, it makes a lot of sense. Going back a little in theory, people with depression may also or had anxiety. They are totally immersed in negative thoughts, such as melancholy, sadness, anger, or even fear. The magnitude of this is so great that in some cases, the person spends long periods of time locked up physically and mentally. Contact with other people is avoided, and that is precisely what happens in the next verse. It's been a long time since she's seen a face. Everything is matching with ease. Now in the following verses, we must analyze more deeply.
And it's been so long since I've seen a face. My eyes are shut but I can see the void between you and me.
The void between you and me. The question is, who is that you? Taking into account the background of a possible depression, referring to this, is the denial phase. The victim denies his current status, does not accept what is happening in his socio-emotional environment, therefore, it will resort to an attempt at a quick fix. For example, after the end of a love relationship, any of the people may have a chance of falling into depression. In this context of denial, the girl simply sees the estrangement between her and her boyfriend, an endless emptiness by not leaving these feelings in the past. This is related to this disorder. Then, we have the phrase "I feel like I'm going insane." This is also an element of the disorder, since other feelings can cause psychosis, disconnecting from reality and losing track of how things really are. losing your personality until you suffer madness. After this, we come to a part of the song where the verses are somewhat different and at the same time they are interesting. Let's listen to them now.
Far from the sun, beyond stars, I hear their song. They're coming closer, talking without sound, calling me home.
To analyze this part, let's connect it with the end of this song, in which, what is repeated over and over again, is the phrase, "I'm running out of air."
I'm running out of air. I'm running out of air. I'm running out of air. I'm running out of air.
This last part becomes more subdued. This is interpreted in the denotative sense, that the girl has just passed away. Earlier we heard the phrase, "far from the sun." This can be interpreted as the girl far from the solution of her problems, or far from her own happiness, away from the light that once kept her mentally healthy. But we come to something deeper in the next 3 verses. The girl says that something is coming, something that calls her home, something that is talking without sound. What does this mean? What are those things that are getting closer? I have given 2 meanings. The first, the simplest, is that what is approaching are the stars that she mentions to us, and she listens to their song. She hears them talk even if they do not emit any sound. But as far as the psychological issue of depression is concerned, this makes no sense. So the girl tells us are just delusions because of psychosis. In other words, as she said in a previous verse, she is on the verge of madness. The second interpretation is somewhat disturbing, because those hypothetical entities that are approaching, are thoughts beyond melancholy, one step ahead of depression, that term that you and I already know. The multiple things that come closer are negative thoughts. It makes all the sense in the world. Just think about it for a moment. What is it that always talks to you, but never emits sound? That which is intangible and abstract. If you deduce that it is the thoughts, you are right. Our feelings and ideas, products of our environment and our personality, are always present in our mind. It is our own voice that we imagine when we think of something, that non-existent voice that is present when we plan to say to someone before doing it. Well, in these verses, what threatens the girl, are those ideas that go beyond sadness, something that incites her to give up, those thoughts that envelop her in an immense space with no way out. And well, with all that said, the last part is already quite clear. It is no coincidence that in real life and especially in recent decades, 93 out of 100 cases, in which unfortunately people have decided to end their own life, suffered from depression, a message that, without a doubt, if you reflect deeply, is something sad. After all this analysis a little dark, I will present a fact about this same song, but that is indirectly related to the theory, so I will explain it. As you know, in multiple parts of the song, we hear a weird sound, which is slightly out of phase with the melody. Many already know what I mean and the meaning of the series of sounds, but if you don't know what I'm talking about yet, let's listen to it. What exactly is the series of sounds? Well, it is not a great mystery. It is something very similar to the term Mayday, which I already explained at the beginning of the video. What you just heard is in Morse code, a kind of signal used in old telecommunications such as telegram. military, aeronautical devices and vehicles and much more, uses only a point, sound or short flash, along one and empty spaces, which are used to represent letters or numbers. Graphically, Morse code is just dots and dashes. Specifically, this is the SOS signal. Like Mayday, this sign means help. Its letters do not have a specific meaning, they were simply chosen because they are easy to represent and memorize. 3 short times, 3 long times and 3 short times, so, phonically, that's the SOS signal. And it is precisely that series of sounds that we hear during the melody. Summing up, and making a small conclusion, without a doubt, the songs of TheFatRat are full of mysteries, and this melody is something special for everything I explained. We have metaphors about depression, some of its characteristics and a somewhat out of the ordinary ending. Either way, I think it is an excellent song, and the interpretation that we gave it today is quite deep and reflective. And to clarify again, no, not all people with depression have these thoughts and attitudes that I mentioned from the song. Each person and their mind are totally different. We have reached the end of this theory. And tell me, what do you think of this song? Do you think this has another meaning? Would you like me to make more videos of this style? Let me know in the comments section. I will read the suggestions you tell me. For the moment I am saying goodbye, and I wish you a good day.